What's up, besties? Today in the Kouri Richins trial, jurors heard some really interesting testimony from the lead investigator, Detective Jeff O'Driscoll. And prosecutors used his testimony to walk the jury through several pieces of evidence, including the children's book Kouri wrote after Eric died. Investigators testified that after Kouri started promoting the book publicly, including TV appearances, the sheriff's office actually received an anonymous package containing a copy of the book. Inside was a note that said, "There are two sides to every story. This is the true Kouri, a devoted wife and adoring mother. Thought you should know." According to investigators, that package was later traced back to Kouri's mother. But then jurors heard something even more interesting. Detectives testified that text messages recovered from Kouri's phone showed she was communicating with a company called Book Writing Lane. That company is a ghostwriting service, meaning someone else may have helped write the book for her. Jurors were also shown texts between Kouri and her brother where she discussed the book. And in those messages, she said it would cost about $10,000 to have the book written. She also told him she expected to make about $5.35 per book sold on Amazon, since Amazon would handle the printing and shipping. At one point, Kouri even told her brother that her goal was to sell 100,000 copies of the book by the end of the year. So prosecutors weren't just showing jurors the book itself. They were showing them how it was created, who helped write it, and how much money it could potentially bring in. But the book wasn't the most shocking thing jurors heard today, because later in the afternoon, the jury learned about something investigators found hidden inside a book in Kouri's jail cell. And that's where the walk the dog letter comes in. This is a 6-page letter Kouri wrote while she was in jail. Investigators testified they found it hidden inside a book among her belongings in September of 2023. And according to prosecutors, the letter reads almost like instructions. Parts of it appear to be directing Kouri's mother about what her family members should say. For example, one section of the letter says her brother should claim that Eric had been getting pain pills and fentanyl from Mexico. Another line says something along the lines of, "The connection has to be made with Mexico and drugs." And at another point, the letter says, "Tell him I need him to do this. Bring me home." So prosecutors are suggesting that this letter could show Kouri was trying to shape a narrative about Eric's death from jail. And it's kind of hard to prove otherwise, in my opinion. The defense, however, argues the letter was fictional writing. The jury didn't just hear about the letter, they also heard recorded jail phone calls between Kouri and her family. In one call with her mom, they discussed the theory that Eric may have been poisoned through a sandwich. And Kouri's reaction was pretty strong, but not necessarily in the way that you would expect. She called investigators idiots, and she said the accusations were a lie. At one point, she even said, "I put a love note on a poisonous sandwich and put it in his car. What the hell?"
People do. Just sit around a damn table and see if you can come up with the craziest fucking story. Well, it makes sense to them. They're saying I put a love note on a poisoned sandwich and put it in his car? What the hell?
Yes.
God, look like this psycho. Here's a poisoned sandwich I gave for you, and here's a love note. On Valentine's Day.
So jurors are hearing Kouri react to these allegations in her own words, which I think is very important. But then prosecutors shifted the focus to another key witness in this case, a woman named Carmen Lauber. And what investigators said about her interviews was pretty interesting. Prosecutors say Carmen was someone Kouri contacted to help obtain drugs, and throughout this trial, we have seen evidence of that. Detective O'Driscoll testified that investigators eventually traced phone calls and messages that led them to Carmen, When they searched her home, detectives said they found drug paraphernalia, THC products, and even firearms under her bed, or a firearm under her bed. This is important because Carmen is a convicted felon, meaning she's not legally allowed to possess a firearm. Investigators also found something else in her room. They found Eric's obituary. According to testimony, Carmen was interviewed 6 different times by investigators. Altogether, those interviews lasted about 10 hours, and the transcripts ended up being nearly 1,000 pages long. Detectives said that during those interviews, Carmen sometimes struggled to remember details and at times tried to minimize her involvement. But investigators told her to only say what she truly remembered and not to make anything up. Jurors were shown portions of those interviews in court. The defense also focused heavily on Carmen Lauber's credibility today. They pointed out that Carmen had violated probation multiple times, including an alcohol violation at a concert and breaking curfew while she was wearing her ankle monitor. They even brought up a letter she wrote to a judge claiming she had been 100% compliant with probation, which she later admitted wasn't true. The defense's argument is basically that Carmen had legal problems of her own, and that could have given her a reason to cooperate with investigators. Prosecutors also introduced something else today: a journal entry written by Kouri the night before Eric died. In that entry, Kouri described their evening together. She wrote that they had a drink, put the kids to bed, and went to sleep. Then she wrote that she woke up around 3 a.m. and realized Eric was cold and unresponsive. She described calling 911, EMTs performing CPR, and wrote that after learning Eric had died, she ran to the bathroom and vomited. So, jurors heard a mix of things: evidence about the book, the Ghostwriter company, the walk the dog letter, Carmen Lauber's interviews, and Kouri's own journal entry about the night Eric died. Prosecutors told the court that Detective O'Driscoll may be their final witness.